Hello and welcome. This is Dale Callahan, and we are going to talk today a little bit about the issue of planning for college. So, in our company, one of the things that we spend a lot of time talking to parents involved with trying to get their kids through high school and prepare for college. So, in particular, I'm finding that there's a lot of questions lately about, preparing for the STEM type of career, STEM being science, technology, engineering, math, and you can throw things in medicine and things like that in it. Basically any of the scientific or more intense mathematically scientific type careers. And so I'm a professor of engineering at a major university. And so one of the things that kind of shocks me is when I listen to people talk about what does it take to get into college and what do the colleges want to see and what do they want to hear. A lot of it's hearsay. A lot of it's not accurate. It certainly doesn't fit with what the universities are really asking for. I want to kind of help put some of that in perspective of what we're talking about here today. One of the things we do notice, though, is as people come into STEM careers, whether it's homeschoolers, whether it's public school, whether it's private school, the mathematics is generally the weak area. Science, not so much, because the weakness in science comes from a weakness in math, right? We generally see people that they'll do really well in biology and chemistry and physics, and they'll do okay in those things unless they become a math intensive course, and then they don't really get them. So at the university level, those courses, and in particular physics, becomes a very math intensive course. So that's usually the hiccup. And of course, at the university level, the science, the other types of things can be more intense, but it's just math is what's such a killer. And in terms of preparation for high school. So how can you be well prepared? Now, so the nice thing is we're finding that homeschoolers aren't necessarily any better or worse prepared, but that they also cannot be, they have the same ability. We have a lot of friends, a lot of customers who have their kids have been homeschooled all the way through high school, and they've gone into engineering and the sciences and things like that and done really, really well. So it's not that hard to get done and to make that happen. So today I kind of want to give you a roadmap to do this. And here's how to get the roadmap. And so what it will be, there's a free download on our site, and it's going to be at AskDrCallahan.com/support. AskDrCallahan.com/support. And there's a roadmap to college that we will have. And this is a lot of the things that we spend a lot of time talking to parents about. And again, it's that common sense principle of what's really needed out there. So I'm going to kind of walk through this and hopefully get rid of some of those misconceptions about what's going on at the university. So let's think about getting to a diploma, right? There's in high school, there's generally two diplomas that we see. And it doesn't matter whether you're homeschool, whether you're private school, whether you're charter school, whether you're public school. You generally see two paths. You see a general diploma or a college prep diploma, meaning we did, and they don't always call it that, but there's that concept. So in a college prep, what you're doing is you're preparing for, let's face it, what we're preparing for is to get accepted. There's this sense that we are preparing for our students to be successful in college, but really what we're preparing to is just to get through the entrance gate. The ACT and SAT exams, the score on those exams are actually fairly relevant in terms of your ability to move through college, assuming time management skills and all those kind of things are good. But they're pretty accurate predictors that somebody who scores really low on those types of tests will struggle. Somebody who scores really high will be okay, and but usually what we're looking for is a scholarship out of those, right? So, but from the university perspective, so let me just tell you how we look at this as a university. Now there's variations, but in general, we want students. We make our money by having you pay us. Right? Think about that for a minute. Universities are money machines, and the only way we make money is when you send your students there and pay us. And if we're doing scholarships and kind of things like that, well, we're buying marketing. What we're doing is when we're buying, your student comes in and they have an excellent ACT or SAT score, and we give them a scholarship. What we've just bought is an increase in our average score. So we bought your student as a piece of marketing material. Now, some people may tell you that's differently, but that's just fact. What it is, look, we're a business. All universities are businesses. We want your students. Now, there are some cases where we only have a certain number of seats because we've done a great job selling our programs, and therefore we might only have a few seats, and you might be competing for them. But that's pretty rare. For most colleges, you're going to find that they're actually competing for you, and they're actually competing for your student. Because here's what happens when your student goes and takes the ACT or the SAT exam. All that data is out there, and then we buy the data. I mean, if we're smart, we buy the data for the best scores, and we market to those people. And what we're trying to do is win them over to come to our university. So it's a game. But even if they don't score into the scholarship level, that's okay. It's still, we would want them to come because somebody's going to pay, right? You're going to either pay out of your pocket. There'll be people that do student loans. We want that money. So it's kind of strange when I hear people competing to get into the university and to get into some university. And granted, there's little exceptions here and there, but to get into some university, people act like they cannot get in. But that's just not the case. I mean, you cannot find people that cannot get into college unless their scores are just really down in the toilet. So down ACT scores below 20 and terrible high school grades. So how do we look at high school grades generally? We don't. I mean, what are we going to do with them? Put yourself in a university's shoes. If you are a local high school or a well-known high school and the university's looking at your grades and they're comparing you to many other students, well, that means something because they know what that school system is like. But a typical university is bringing people in from all kinds of systems and high schools and private schools and even international schools. What are we going to look at? It's comparing apples to oranges. The grades are not as near as relevant, and even the courses are not near as relevant. So what we are usually looking for is kind of this minimum thing. The ACT score and the SAT score, by the way, those things trump everything. If those scores are great, then really it's the end of conversation. But we are looking for general types of credits. And so in math, generally what you're seeing in your STEM type of careers, they're looking for 3 years of credit, 3 years of math. So that could be algebra, geometry, pre-calculus, algebra, geometry, algebra 2 and trig. It could be, any packaging, right? But here's the trick. It doesn't mean it was taken in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. If your student was bright and they took them in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, well, they still got the credit because they still did the course. Right. And so you as the teacher get to put the course where you want it to be. So it's the credit's still there. I mean, what we're looking for, we're looking for people who can get into the university and succeed. Because if you cannot succeed the first year, you cease to pay us. Right. I mean, this sounds kind of selfish, but you cease to pay us. There's another thing that hurts us, though, is when your student enters the university and does not go to the end. It's a ding against us. It's another statistical thing where we've lost a student. They've gone away. And that's a bad thing to us. It's a metric that we get measured on. So we want students who can get in and who can get through the system that maximizes our profit and that also will do well. But realistically, we hope the students get out and do well in society and use their skills, because guess what? Hopefully they'll pay us back, or they'll send other people. They'll hire our students when they get in positions. I mean, we hope every university hopes to have a strong alumni that does well and goes and does awesome things. So, but these are the kind of concepts that we want to think through is when you are preparing for that. So that's kind of the base stuff here, is just the required courses. And then if you look at our roadmap, and so if you download it, you will see, let's see if I can get this on screen. You'll see kind of an example roadmap here where we've given you an example from 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Now look, as a homeschool teacher, you get the flexibility of how to count things. My wife and I were talking the other day about so many people in the homeschool communities. We put external restrictions on ourselves. We put things on ourselves that we think are restrictions and we think are requirements, and they're not really. I can't tell you the number of people that tell me that a certain state requires this or that or another, and a lot of the states don't require hardly anything. People will tell me that the state of New York requires incredible, hoops to jump through for homeschoolers, and then people in New York will say that's not the case. It's not that bad. Now, of course, you got to check with your state, but that's the thing that you've got to think through is really, as a homeschool leader, parenting a child through this, what are your state requirements? And they're probably smaller than you think they are. What are the cover school requirements? And, just what are the requirements? And they're just numbers, usually just got to have so many years of this, so many hours of this. And then what are the college requirements that you want to go to? Most of us have some idea of where our sons or daughters might be thinking about going to college. So go to them, ask them. But don't just go to the people at the front desk, kind of the university, that are the undergraduate group. These are pretty much recruiters. Go and talk to the people inside the department. So if you're going into biology, go talk to the chair of the biology department. If you're going into physics, go talk to the chair. Go talk to the chairman of these programs, because sometimes they have specific ideas and specific hints. And this is, beginning with the end in mind, rather than you doing a whole bunch of busy work and then you getting into college and finding out, well, they didn't really care. And usually they don't really care. Here's another thing that we don't usually think about is you can negotiate often. When college will tell me, I talked to a parent the other day, and they said the college said you had to do this. And I said they had to, and they said, well, yeah, we kind of asked a little more detail. The college said, we did not want you to take AP calculus, for instance, is what they said. We don't want you to take AP calculus. We want you to come here and take calculus. Now that makes sense, right? There's more profit to me if you take it from me. That's logical. Now there could be other reasons, because we know how our calculus course is well done and all those kind of things. But when the parent asked and pushed back a little bit, and they said, you mean we can't bring it in even though we took it? And then the school backed off a little bit and said, well, you can, we just recommend against it. So a lot of things that you hear are recommendations, and they're not always recommendations from the department or the faculty. They're just recommendations. There are hard requirements, but they're not again, at the university, they're not as many as there are that you think there are. If you have a bright student, if you have a student who's going to show up, if you have a student who's going to be able to do that, and the money is there, whether you're paying or scholarship money or something is there, you can work it out. You can usually get through details and get a deal. One of the things that we look at is you want to take as few courses at the college level as you can. You want to do as much CLEPing and AP coursing as makes sense to you. In the department. So what we're going to give you in the roadmap is the opportunity to come and and fill this thing out here. And well, again, you can't see that. We're giving you kind of the slots, the basic slots to do these kind of things. So And generally, what we're looking for mathematically is so to get into a STEM career, I'm going to talk about STEM specifically, is we're talking algebra, geometry, algebra 2 and trig. We sometimes call that pre-calculus, same thing. Algebra 2 and trig, pre-calculus, same thing. And if you've got those three, you're in great shape. Many of you will actually walk in with calculus also. Great shape, because in a STEM type career, you're almost always start out with the first mathematics that's required is calculus 1. So if you've got up to calculus 1, great shape. If you have anything below that, you're now paying tuition to fill the gap. So you can do that in a lot of different ways, but those are the 4 courses that you need, or the 3 courses that you need is algebra, geometry, algebra 2 and trig, sometimes called pre-calculus, and then if you can, calculus 1. And it's very doable. We have a lot of students who work with us who they'll actually do calculus 2 through us. We don't technically have a calculus 2 on the books, but we have one we can grab a hold of and give them where they can do a Calc 2, do the Calc AB exam, and be, especially with those going into engineering, that's probably their typical approach there. Now, one of the things that we look for mathematically is college prep material or college material. If you're going to take high school math, if you're going to take mathematics and preparing for college, take college material, especially once you hit the algebra 2 and pre-calculus level. Drop the high school material. Just get rid of it, because you got to switch your mind to how the university teaches. And the difference between a college algebra 2 and in fact had some many popular names, but a popular one is Forrester Algebra 2 with Trig. Great book, but it's high school. And there's Algebra 2 with Trig that we use that's college. Now, the mathematics technically looks kind of the same. The college book's a little more interesting, a little more applied sciences type stuff, and it's thinking towards engineering, medicine, and all the kind of things that the college has to teach for. The college mathematics departments have to think about this, because their customer in the mathematics department is the School of Engineering, is the School of Medicine, is the School of Business. That's who they're preparing students for. So the books that they choose have applications geared toward these specific fields, and it's not just math anymore. It's not just the function of the language. So when we're looking at material, I wanted to use college prep material. If there was no mathematics course, as a matter of fact, this is the way we did math in our homeschool. If there's no mathematics courses in the homeschooling market that met what we would figure to be a college prep set, and at the time we didn't find there really being any good options, then we just went to the university, we grabbed the most popular textbook they used, and that's what we taught out of. Because and again, this is keeping the end in mind. If you're going to be moving to a college classroom, start thinking like a college classroom. Start teaching the material like they do. I hope that gives you some stuff. Some other things to be thinking about here is, as you're preparing for college, to start to think about independent learners. Independent learners. Your student, if you are still teaching your student and sitting down with them and walking them through stuff, and that's probably not true very often, but if you cannot just hand them the book, hand them the videos, and say, you go figure it out and you go learn it and come to us if you need any help, or go to the teacher if you need any help, or go to the support. In our case, they go to our support page if you need any help. They have to take the responsibility for it. They have to gain the independence of just being able to do that, because that's where they're going, right? You cannot help them there. So, and a lot of what you're teaching at that point is that independence and the time management, and that they can grab it and do it. As a matter of fact, I want you to think about one of the critical factors going down the STEM path. And matter of fact, let me even go beyond that. Let me go into the critical factor thinking about industry. And that's what we call critical thinking. The number one issue that we hear from industry is, and when we're talking about hiring people that, they're not entry level people in the sense of fast food restaurants or something, but they're actual people with skills. They're looking for critical thinking ability, that they can take an issue, they can frame the problem, give it a definition, go figure out how to solve it, and solve it. Now, we're not talking rocket science all the time, but we're just saying that they can clearly frame a problem. So a corporate leader the other day told me, he says, Dale, what we're looking for is, can they clearly understand and define what the problem is? Because until you can define the problem, you don't know what you're after. So we want to teach our children to be able to do that. Mathematics and the logics of going through math and the connection of math to science, because mathematics is the language of science. That's the language that we speak of in science. Those things teach you the logical skills that's critical thinking. If you actually do it and you actually understand what you're doing, because when you look at a problem there, you're critically thinking, what am I trying to solve? What's the goal? What does the output look like? Even if you read a math problem and say, is the answer going to be in feet? Is it going to be inches? Or is it going to be in degrees Celsius? I mean, just knowing what an answer looks like, just thinking through clearly, that is framing the problem. And the shocking thing is that we have a lot of graduates, not only high school graduates, but even college graduates, who these companies get their hands on, and they cannot think critically. So what we want to be doing as parents, as homeschoolers, is to be preparing them for the path that they're going down. Maybe you don't know where they're going, but I think college is a path that we at least want them to be prepared for if that's where they go. So this roadmap that we've got here, and again, it's free. We'll give you the link to it. We'll put it on the page. But you can go, and it gives you just some blanks to fill out when you can go and create your own roadmap for each one of your homeschooling children. So these are questions that we're getting through our email, through some of them through Facebook, and some of them some other Facebook groups that we're part of, and we're hearing as we're coming into July, or we're in July in the heat of things and trying to plan through. And a lot of people are now with kids in the 10th, 11th, 12th grade trying to think, okay, what do I do now? What do I do? And as one parent said the other day, I feel like I've totally failed her, or misled her, and she's not ready now, which is not usually the truth. And that is one thing I want to give you encouragement on. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. It doesn't matter where your student is. There's a path out. There is a path to success. I don't care how far down they are in math, how far behind you may feel like they are. There's a path to get from where you are to engineering school, science, wherever they want to be. That's it's doable. It's very doable. At the university, we want them to do that. We bring in students all the time. We were looking at a PhD student today on one of the committees I'm on, and the thought was, this guy's grades aren't really that great, but his perseverance, we want to give him a shot. He just kept digging and kept digging and kept digging, but his grades undergraduate level, and it just didn't have a whole lot that impressive. But there was that spirit of, this guy's a fighter. We want to give him the shot. So I think that we all want that, right? So if you've got that with your kids, you can get past anything, any past issue, you can move forward and get past it, and still have an awesome outcome. Thanks a lot. And again, we will put that download. It's AskDrCallahan.com/support. We will put it in the group right after this ends. Thanks a lot.